Hi, I'm Stacy, and this is Practical ESL. So today we're going to think about different kinds of visuals in the classroom and what visuals mean for our English language learners. So here we go. Let me share with you. All right, so when we talk about visuals, let's just think, what are visuals? So first, visuals are anything other than words that your students can see that help them understand what you're teaching. So this could be anchor charts as visuals. This could be when you do a picture on the PowerPoint. So if you're going to show the text that you're reading with your students on your PowerPoint presentation, but alongside the text, you put a picture. That is a visual to help your students understand. Visuals could be gestures that you use in the classroom. I use a lot of gestures. The only thing is that you want to make sure you're not just talking with your hands and just moving your hands with no reason to move them. So we want to move them with purpose so that our kids can better understand what we're talking about. Visuals could be movie clips that you show, just a clip. I wouldn't say the whole movie is not a visual, but there is a visual message in a movie. Okay. You have realia, that is real objects. I use a lot of realia in my classroom, and I will hold something up. So if I say, take your pen, then my students know what I'm talking about because I used realia, a real object, to show them what I meant. So the question is, why are visuals so important? We always talk about, oh, kids need visuals and you need to use more visuals. And when I talk to teachers in the classroom, I say, what's the number one most important thing for our students who are learning English? And they all tell me, visuals, we need to use more visuals. But nobody, not no one, but I seldom see people actually using visuals. So I can't quite figure out the disconnect between knowing that we need visuals and actually using visuals with our students to help them understand what we're talking about. And so somehow I think maybe that disconnect is this, just that we don't know how to use them. And we think, oh, it's just a picture, but then sometimes we don't even know how to use the picture. So visuals are important because they stimulate student thinking. They make learning more relevant. So if I was talking about the cell and I had no picture to show you, and I just say, so we have all of these millions and millions of cells in our body, and the cell looks like this, and you have this outer section of the cell and this inner section of the cell. But if kids don't have a picture, even if I don't have a picture, it's very difficult to understand what my teacher is talking about. Visuals are important because they help emergent bilinguals make meaning of the text. So if I have a text for them and then I show them a picture to represent it, then suddenly they can narrow down that information and understand what it's talking about, at least more than they would before. How can I use visuals in the classroom? So one thing that you could do is, let's say that students are reading a difficult book in their English class and the teacher chunked the text onto slides for easier reading, but the students are not understanding. So what is something that you could do to use a visual with this text? What kind of visual would improve the situation? So I would say there is a website called Course Heroes. And I think that Course Hero is amazing. I actually never knew about it until this year. And it was a teacher friend of mine who showed me. And I was so excited because one of our English 1 classes was teaching of mice and men. And they had a lot of English language learners, and they were so lost because this text was so complicated. And Course Hero will go through a summary of each chapter and also give you like a video of what happens in that chapter. So it's really great to give your kids a visual to understand that reading. So you might not have known that option, but that's what I would do for this one. Students are answering comprehension questions for a text they read that they had read, but they don't know many of the answers. So then we might think, maybe they need a visual. What kind of visual could improve the situation? So on this one, you could just chunk the text and then put a picture in there. And this is what another one of my teachers did. And she took this text and she put in some pictures, and it helped her kids just be able to, again, narrow down the information that was given and be able to have an idea of what the text was talking about so that they could make more meaning from that text. Students read the article, but they could not respond to the questions from the text using the academic vocabulary within the text. So what could you do? You could make a kind of vocabulary chart like this, where you have the word and then a brief explanation of the word and then a picture. And that picture really helps your students to put more meaning with that vocabulary word. And then on the next line, you could have them write it in their own language. So they could use a word-to-word dictionary. They could use Google Translate if you wanted, but whatever it is, they would have the word, a short definition, the picture, and they would have it in their own language. And together, that would help them to make more meaning. If you wanted them to use those words all the time, you could make that chart a big poster and you could hang that poster on your wall. Or you could print each individual page as just an 8.5 by 11 and put those on your wall and hold your students accountable for those vocabulary words that you teach them. That will grow their vocabulary. The teacher gives students a quiz over the week's unit at the end of a unit on the life cycle of a butterfly, but students do not perform well on the quiz. What kind of visual do you think would have improved this situation? I think an anchor chart of the life cycle of a butterfly. And if you had that anchor chart and they saw it and you used that anchor chart through that entire unit of the life cycle of a butterfly, then when they get to the quiz, they're going to know what those words mean. If you used your chart successfully, then if you take it down, they're even going to look in that direction when they're taking their quiz. And then you know that they really understood. The teacher gives a lecture on geographic location of China and its surrounding neighbors. Students are bored and they don't pay attention. What kind of visual could improve this situation? Has this situation ever happened to you? You could use a globe for one. There's lots of different visuals that you could use in this situation, but one would be just to have a globe. Have you ever held up a globe in front of your students? There's something about this idea of the world and these unknown places that really ignites curiosity in our students and helps them to be more engaged in what we're talking about. So a couple tips for being visual with your students. One is that when I walk into a classroom, often I see the teacher and she or he is facing a wall or facing the PowerPoint or facing the desk even, but not facing the students. You are visual. And so these are tips for you being visual with your students. And so always face your students when you talk to them. Next, rather than just referring to a visual or talking point, actually point to it. If I have the globe, I'm going to hold the globe and I'm going to point to China. I'm not just going to hold the globe and say, China is right here, but I'm going to point to it. If I talk about something inside a visual when if I had the one of a text up on my PowerPoint, and then I am talking about a picture that goes with that text, and I talk about the dog in that picture, I'm going to point to the dog and the specific thing that was interesting about him. Anything that I'm going to refer to, the life cycle of a butterfly, I'm going to trace that cycle as it goes around, and me moving and drawing attention to that place that I'm talking about also helps our English language learners to focus their attention in that same spot and start to make meaning of your words, even if they don't understand. Super, super helpful for them. Whenever possible, let your students see your mouth when you're talking. I know that with COVID, and any other time that we might have to wear a mask. But when teachers have worn a mask for so long, the students did not get to see their mouth move. And for English language learners, seeing the mouth of their teachers is so important. It is key to understanding this language. And so as much as possible, let your students see your mouth when you're talking, because it will make a huge difference for their understanding. What are two ways that you will use visuals in your classroom this week? I hope that this has given you some ideas. So if you have some ideas, please share them in the chat below this video. And if you think this video is helpful, like it and share it with a friend. And I think that's it for today. So I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for joining.